All right, everyone, it's time for the next slew of Democratic primaries. Today, 6 states vote. If you are in one of these states and eligible, some of them I think are open primaries, please do take a Dem ballot. Please do vote for Joe Biden. We've got to do everything that we can to keep socialism from ever gaining even a toehold in the country. That's number one. Number two, for selfish reasons, I don't want the face of Vermont being this ice cream swilling fanatic. This crazy old man preaching mid-19th century mumbo-jumbo, scientific, economic Scientology. Number three, it'll be funny. Watching Biden get taken apart by Trump on a national stage will be funny. Even the burnouts will find it funny. They'll probably, in the end, they'll be fine because they'll get to see, basically their prediction that Biden can't win come true. So at the very least, they'll have that. So don't worry too much, Shu, and all of these other people. I know you're swinging for Bernie, but it doesn't look good for him, and I'm gonna analyze what I can here. We don't even have polling from a couple of these states. The writing is basically on the wall, though, at the moment. Biden is running about 20 points ahead in two of the critical states. There are 4 states that have significant delegate totals that are going. Washington State, where Sanders had been ahead. It is part of his Western bulwark. I would still say he's got a decent chance of taking it. This is sort of a 50-50 proposition. Biden's been, however, a couple points ahead in the last couple of polls, so Washington State's a big one. Then you have a couple of flyover states. No offense to anyone in Idaho or North Dakota, but the delegate count there's not high. Sanders is probably favored to take those because he's done disproportionately well in that part of the country. Rural, more white, older populations. That's sort of where Sanders shines. So he'll probably get Idaho and North Dakota. He could lose even them, though, but we don't even have any polling. I don't even have a single poll out of Idaho. I'm just taking a flying fuck at a rolling donut at this point because I'm just making an educated guess based on the previous states' races. We have Mississippi. It's in the deep south. Biden probably wins there. They've got a decent delegate count, similar to Washington. And then the two big ones are Michigan and Missouri. Now, Michigan is important. We must not forget that in the Dem primaries in 2016, polls had Hillary Clinton up, I think, by high single digits and ended up with Bernie Sanders running away with it. Even that particular gap wouldn't allow Bernie Sanders Michigan. Right now, Biden's up by 20 points in several of the recent polls. But we've got to keep an eye on it because Michigan is like Wisconsin. Michigan and Wisconsin, the polls are frequently wrong. Iowa, too. The big three, I suppose, all clustered around in this one area. The polls there, I don't know what it is, whether it's the fickle nature of people who live there or the stupid nature of the polling firms that operate there, but they seem consistently wrong. It would be funny if Bernie Sanders were to flip Michigan. But that takes us to Missouri, which is the second biggest haul of the day. Again, Biden's been up there for a while, and it looks like he's expanded. He might be 25, 30 points ahead right now. I think that's insurmountable, and I call the state for Biden in a tentative fashion. So I favor Biden to win 4 states, and also he just gained Cory Booker's endorsement. So keep in mind, the two most critical people to get endorsements from that hadn't endorsed just endorsed Biden right before this slew. Booker and Kamala Harris. Disproportionately going to help in Michigan. Because in the outlands of Michigan, I can see Biden perhaps doing well, but Sanders has also done well in the past among that bloc, specifically 2016. So that's more of a battleground. When you come to the inner city voting blocks, though, Biden already has a huge advantage. Having Cory Booker and Kamala Harris on board looks good compared to Bernie Sanders, who right now only has 1 endorsement. As far as people who have already been in the field, the only other person who's endorsed Bernie, Marianne Williamson, and literally nobody cares about her endorsement. Every other person has endorsed Sanders. By the way, I speculate, if Biden does well today, again, the voting is held today. It's at 6:30 a.m. Eastern at the moment, or 5:30. I don't know. There was a time zone shift, so I'm not even sure what time it is here now at the moment. I don't know. I never know what time it is. Mainly because I don't operate on a normal schedule, so I lose track of the day of the week, too, on a regular basis. Thank goodness I can still remember to put my pants on most of the time in the morning, and I haven't relapsed into Bidenism yet. Here's the thing. If Biden does well, if he gets at least 4 states, and or by good margins, so his delegate total is reasonably further ahead than it already is. If he extends his lead, I expect Warren to endorse him before the next slew of states if the polling remains the same. Here's why. And after the debate. Florida is the big one from next week on the 17th. Huge number of delegates. Biden may win the state by 40 points because of the Fidel Castro gaffe, which is what it is, of Bernie Sanders. His unwillingness to not defend Fidel Castro really hurt him. Guarantee that's why the polling is so disparate. I think there have been 2 polls now there, and they both show Biden up. I think one had him up by 25, the other by 40 or some insane number. Did Biden completely destroy Sanders? Sanders may be forced to drop out as early as next week. I hope not. I hope that he keeps battling it on and gobbling up just enough delegates to keep Biden from getting an absolute total, which is, by the way, still possible. You got to realize some delegates are allotted to Elizabeth Warren and to Michael Bloomberg and to Buttigieg and I think a few here, I think the one to Gabbard. That all matters. It means that in a reasonably close race, even if Biden does well in these next 2 contests, he could still come in a few delegates short. That means a contested convention. And the Bernie fans will go goddamn nuts. You can expect them to show up in Milwaukee in force with their signs and their Molotov cocktails and ramble endlessly about how Biden can't win, and it is imperative that the Democratic Party deny him nomination and nominate Bernie. Essentially, give us our candidate or fire and murder. It'll look a little bit like I suppose, 1930s Germany at that point. Or the late 60s well, I can't remember exactly where they were holding the Democratic Convention there. I should probably know. I literally took a course in high school called The 60s about all the counterculture stuff. It was pretty fun. Got to watch footage on, early wave YouTube of hippies rioting, and it was pretty great. It was funny because at one point the hippies got together and started Sieg Heiling, and it wasn't entirely clear whether they were doing that as a show of force or to mock the police as though they were Gestapo members. And it wasn't entirely clear. They actually rushed the police and got them to back off before doing it. It was quite a sight. Just think the boomers accomplished that back when they were younger. Millennials, unfortunately, so far what have we accomplished? We helped get Obama elected. What a wonderful time. What wonderful memories of our youth. Now, I love my 30s way more than my 20s. Let's just put it that way politically. With Booker and Kamala aboard, again, the 2 most important, what do you call them? People of color, I guess, is the proper term now, which to me sounds like a bigoted term, but it's what the Democrats say. So when in Rome, I'll do as the Romans do. I know that in tech, they sick their Gestapo agents on people who don't fall in line. That probably seals the deal. Michigan, certainly Mississippi and Missouri I would expect to go for Biden. So those 2 are easy to call. Everything else is harder because Michigan was difficult to call in 2016. So that could go the other way. I just don't expect it. I think it'll go Biden. There's like a 90% chance. Washington State's really close. It's like 50-50. And then Idaho and North Dakota, you don't have polls. I would suspect they go for Bernie Sanders and that Washington narrowly goes for Biden. At this point, I would have to say late breakers appear to have broken for Biden as opposed to Sanders in prior races. And he still has the tailwind, and you got to understand, once he gets a little bit more wind behind his sails, if he pulls ahead in the delegate count. I saw one image the other day. Oh my God, this was such cope posting, dude. There was an image, they're like, well, there are still outstanding delegates from California. Bernie might still be ahead. Biden's only ahead by, 56 delegates or something. Biden is very likely to end today considerably further ahead in delegates, even if he were just to win 3 states. So, they break even as far as the number that they win. The states that Biden is favored to win in are simply numerically superior to a place like Idaho. You get more delegates from winning Michigan, Missouri, and Mississippi than you do by winning the other 3. I think that 2 of those are out of Bernie's reach. Just as I assume, and I could be completely wrong, that Idaho and North Dakota will stay in the Bernie camp. Looking at a map, all of the empty western space is being filled in by Bernie Green. Everything else at this point appears to be Biden territory, except maybe southern New England, but it's going to be a while till they vote. The next slew of races, it's Ohio, where Biden's up by single digits, so that's fairly close. Illinois, where I think Sanders is ahead by single digits, so that's close. Florida, where it's not even close at all. And Arizona, where it looks like Biden has pulled massively ahead. If that's the case, it'll be another win for Biden on that day. My hope is that it's close enough so that Bernie Sanders has just enough delegates to keep Biden on his toes, number one, and to keep him falling short of the delegate threshold. I want a messy, contested convention because I want crazy shit to happen. Not violence, not people getting harmed, but I do want to see people get hot under the collar. I want to see them on the convention floor for hours debating one another on the ramifications of nominating each person, because fundamentally you haven't really had a choice yet, now have you? It's always been the tale of Joe Biden, the heir apparent, with everyone else failing to fall in line behind him at first, and Bernie Sanders being sort of this numbnut fanatic that nobody actually wants to endorse, nobody likes. He's not a likable dude. He has no good ideas. He's operating like it's the mid-1800s. You've got one possible nominee who thinks it's the 70s. The other thinks it's the 1870s. I think this is a problem. Yes, I mean, it would be neat if the Democrats would try to bring a couple of people who haven't ran onto the floor of the convention if it's contested. That could even happen. I don't think, by the way, it'll be Hillary or anyone like that. When people say Hillary Clinton's running, no, she released her Hulu special because she wants the hype around her possibly running to buff up her numbers so she can sell more books and get more clickbait. Really Clinton's strategy, she's making extra millions of dollars by waiting until now to release that, by the way. Good on you, Hillary Clinton. You're pretty good at making money. You're just not good at making sure not to spend others into oblivion, as you've been bankrupt on several occasions, I believe. Really big problem. They left the White House with only, 3 homes and 10 limos or something. We were totally flat broke, just like you. Oh my God, I had to go to Starbucks instead of going to the executive lounge to get my $10 latte. Oh gee, I had to rub elbows with people wearing polyester clothing, says Bill Clinton. You haven't heard much from him on the campaign trail. It's funny because in 2016, of course, he was a constant surrogate. And before that, like 2012, he was all-encompassing. In fact, delivered one of the best speeches of his life, I think in the 2012 election, or was it 2008? I think it was 2012. Was very, very much with it. He was sort of still the star of the Democratic Party. Now he's fallen on hard times because nobody likes him. He fell like 9 ranks in the presidential greatness rankings because of the hashtag #MeToo thing. They knocked him out in favor of Obama to save face. They didn't want the face of the Democratic Party to be, a rapist. It didn't make sense. That's about all. Peace out.